to item 6.
We're looking at the Forestry Engineering, the Bunkerville irrigation, secondary irrigation study, and we're looking at amending the contract with Forestry Engineering, which would be amendment number 2. Originally, back in early 2012, the board and district entered into a contract with Forestry Engineering in the amount of $18,000 to perform the Bunkerville secondary irrigation study. A few months later, the contract was amended with amendment number 1 in the amount of $4,500 to add a couple of new study items into the study.
Did we add those items?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah. And most recent, our contract with them ended when they did the presentation back in October to the board on their findings. Since then, Forestry has done some additional work in preparation for the town meeting last week, and some subsequent follow-up information that was requested, and we anticipate another public meeting sometime in the future that Forestry will be part of and help us prepare for. And so this amendment number 2 will help reimburse Forestry for the work that they did in preparation for last week's meeting, and also help us as we move forward for the next public meeting. So, the recommendation to the board is to approve the amendment number 2.
Any comments from the board?
No, I forgot to state that the amendment number 2 is in the amount of $4,200, and will be billed at an hourly rate not to exceed $4,200.
120 an hour. Yeah, I move that we approve the amendment to the contract with Forestry and Associates as written, as proposed.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries. Go to item 7, and I believe you're back on, Mr. Brown.
I'm getting tired of me with that. Hey, I'm going to point you to paragraph number 5 in my memorandum.
You know, if you don't mind, may I make a comment? We held a town board, actually there was a town board meeting held in Bunkerville, and Kevin and Aaron and Ryan Wheeler from Forestry were there, and kind of laid out what was discussed here to the people of Bunkerville. I thought it went really well. Obviously they have some concerns, and they've requested that they be able to form a committee to look at some resolutions as far as trying to make the system work for them. Understanding, of course, what our detractions are, our costs are, what the problems are. They want to have a little more in-depth look. They want to form a committee and work with staff as far as trying to come up with a solution if there is one. So I commend the Water District for going out and meeting with the people of Bunkerville. They felt like their issues were being addressed. We do have 2 members from the Bunkerville Town Board. I don't know if they want to talk tonight, but that was their request, is if they could have a little time to form a committee and try to work through these issues and make sure that we come up with the best possible solution for both Bunkerville and the Water District.
Do you have an idea on the time frame?
I don't know that a time frame was really thrown out, except
I threw one out towards the end of the meeting, and that tied into our budget preparation period, that we had to have our budget completed by May of next year, and that I'd like to get this kind of put to bed, and whatever the recommendation is that the board ultimately adopts.
I know they've hit the ground running though, because I've talked to a couple of them. They've already talked about getting a committee. They've already pretty much decided who's going to be on the committee. And
So do we want to have a meeting with the...
I think the thing to do would be let this committee work. Let's set up, I think, probably direct staff to work with them, and then have staff at a future date put on a public, put in a public hearing for us to hold here, and have them come forward with any of their recommendations, and then Then after that, we can sit down and formally decide what we want to do as far as the board. With the secondary
Is everybody
system.
in agreement with that?
Yeah, you know, I think on our end, we'd like to get it done quick too. I'd say by March, I'd like to be done, you know, end of February, we'd know yay or nay, you know, even earlier if we could, but by then for sure, I'd like to just have it nailed down. I don't know what you guys thinking on that, but I think we can get through a few options and decide that there's no possible way, there is a way, and that you can be done at that point.
You know, and also, if there isn't a way, whatever resolution, whatever we decide, also the transition of that probably needs to be discussed and worked out with the board. That'd be a good time to, you know, once you come up with, if there is a possible solution. If not, then how do we transition into the either doing away with the system or any kind of recommendation they come up with, so.
So what should we do with this, Eric, this item 7?
I think that probably what we need to do is make a motion to direct staff to work with their committee and bring this back at a later date, and the recommendation back at a later date to a public hearing.
Yeah, I think that would work with the
Okay, is
agenda
that your
for the
motion?
board.
Does that fit within the item?
Yeah, I think it fits within the agenda for the
Rich.
board.
Hey, just a note on that, kind of our committee, we'd probably just mainly be working with your local staff, you know, or you have a consultant here, I think he doesn't need to be brought in until probably the end, keep costs down. We'll just work directly with you
Right.
guys for a while, and then if there's some
Good
questions,
point.
we'll.
Yeah, once you come down to the technical aspect, and make a couple phone calls, maybe even shoot him an email.
We won't charge you anything for our ideas.
Well, and we
Wait, I
appreciate,
got paid.
we appreciate that, but I think we need to make it clear here tonight, though, that, you know, we get into March, summer's gonna be coming, and there's a lot of people that utilize that system, and if ultimately we go with the kind of the recommendation that's been out there that we're gonna abandon the system, we want the residents of Bunkerville to understand that we give them a shot, and they need to realize that, so, you know, we just don't want the,
Right.
a
Get the
big,
summertime.
a big discussion coming then that, you know, I just want that clear. I mean, I'm all for, if there's a great solution out there, let's get it done, but,
I'm hoping before March, we're.
Well, I'd like, you know, I'd like to see a resolution, but I'd also like to see some transition, so I'm not sure that just because summertime's coming, we're just gonna.
well, no, I understand that, but I don't want them to think that, you know, that they're ultimately gonna have it through the summer. I think they need to understand that this thing's being considered, the potential could be that it might be done for the summer.
The other thing I'd like to recommend too is that maybe we send out a postcard or a letter to all the people on the system, because that item, no offense, on the agenda was pretty ambiguous about what it was about. It said discussions with Virgin Valley Water District. It didn't really say anything about secondary system and what we were, you know. I think maybe a newsletter to all the people on the system, making them aware of what was going on, that we have, the Bunkerville Town Board's forming a committee. We're gonna work together and try to come up with a resolution, just so that it doesn't get 6 months down the road and somebody says, I didn't know this was going on, you know. It's inevitable it's gonna happen, but then at least we could say, we mailed everybody on the system. So I think it's an administrative item that'd be good.
Does your billing system allow you to add a note to users in any particular area?
I can't-
The former power co-op where I was served, they could target
Wes, could you
any
name
area
that?
on your bill with,
We can put notes on, but not one big enough to accomplish what we're trying to do with this situation.
And I think it would be appropriate.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is it would be, everybody would get it, not just those, so.
okay. Some people are more modern than others.
Okay.
Well, I was at that meeting, and they had a pretty fair turnout, I would say, for the people that were there, and there was a lot of discussion. And a lot of their biggest concerns was the fact of, I think most of the people really believed that there wasn't any real substance in that secondary system, and they know it needs to be changed. But they were really concerned about how their bills are going to go from one rate to another, and wanted an opportunity, and I believe it was it Levi? Yeah. Is going to head that committee, and they had asked if they would like to have a chance to just look at it. There was a gentleman in there that, I don't think he really meant to undermine what we were doing, but he did make the comment that even though we have our engineer and we presented all this information, that they thought that we were only feeding them the information we wanted them to know. So I think they wanted an opportunity to do their own kind of thing to make sure that the people there in Bunkerville realized that we weren't doing anything that hadn't really been studied, so. But I think it was a good meeting, and I think we had a lot of good discussion.
We get a little wary when people come across the river.
Do you wanna do another motion there, Mr. Buller?
Yeah, I would move that we direct staff to work with the Bunkerville Committee in coming up with some possible solutions and as directed, you know, utilizing the engineer as minimal as possible, and also direct them to have this brought up as a public hearing in the future. Anything I need to put in there, Kevin, other than that?
I think it's good.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, call for the vote, all those in favor, say aye, those opposed.
One more question. I
Okay.
noticed that we already have a December 17th meeting to gather additional comments. Are we still going to have that as our?
I think that'll be premature to do that. When I wrote this, I didn't know what was gonna come out of this.
Okay, I just wanted to know,
Yeah.
make sure we weren't doing both.
Okay, so we have 4 in favor and 1 missing, so the motion carries.
So, Sandra, are you suggesting that maybe we advise Ryan with Forsgren that he hold off on that hourly $120 rate until we actually need him to do some research for the next meeting? Is that kind of what we're kind of
I
implying here?
think so.
Thank
That, you
Ryan,
know.
so thank you.
Okay, he's nodding
Yeah,
yes,
he
so,
gets it.
okay.
You heard we don't believe the engineers anyways, so.
Yeah,
Well, when we get the information, we'll let him calculate it to him, see where we end up, throw it in the air and come to a solution.
Yeah, and if you feel like hiring an engineer,